Pamela, a waitress in a small suburban diner, stood near the kitchen door, her stained apron and a notepad clutched in a trembling hand. The morning chatter of customers was suddenly interrupted by the sharp voice of Carl, her angry manager. "You left your post for 30 minutes to play with your kid in the back room. What is this, a daycare?" Pamela, blonde with her hair in a messy bun, felt panic wash over her. "No, I'm sorry. She has a fever. I didn't know what to do," she stammered. Nearby customers slowed their movements, some averting their gaze, others watching with curiosity. Carl, unsympathetic, raised his voice. "You brought a sick child into a restaurant. Are you crazy or what?" Pamela explained, her voice breaking, that a hospital stay for Maria, her 3-year-old daughter, would cost her several days' wages, making it impossible to pay the rent. "I just wanted to hold on today," she murmured, but Carl, relentless, pointed to the door. "It's over. Grab your things, you're fired." Silence fell. Pamela, without a word, headed to the dark back room where Maria slept on a blanket laid over flattened boxes. Her feverish cheeks and damp curls broke Pamela's heart. She wrapped her daughter in the blanket, held her close, and stepped out into the cold rain. Soaked, she walked down the gray street, holding Maria, unsure of where to go. The stares of the customers, Carl's disdain, and the humiliation followed her, but she walked on, driven by instinct and despair. What she didn't know was that a man, sitting in a corner of the diner, had seen everything. Gerald Whitmore, seemingly discreet, watched in silence, an untouched coffee in front of him, his gaze fixed on Pamela's silhouette fading into the rain. Gerald Whitmore, seated in an isolated booth of the diner, was not an ordinary customer. Beneath his dark coat and gray shirt, he concealed his identity. The new owner of the restaurant chain, acquired 3 weeks earlier by his company, Whitmore Hospitality Group. He visited the establishments incognito to assess their operations, culture, and values. That morning, the spectacle he witnessed at the diner deeply marked him. He saw Pamela, a young waitress, being humiliated by Carl, the manager, for taking care of her sick daughter. The cruelty in Carl's voice, the indifference of the customers, and Pamela's contained dignity, despite her despair, remained etched in his mind. Gerald, motionless, reflected on his own difficult childhood spent in foster homes, where he felt invisible. Pamela's gaze, a mix of shame, exhaustion, and resilience, was familiar to him. He opened his leather notebook and noted, "Pamela, waitress, blonde, early 20s, fired for caring for her child, calm under pressure, do not abandon." Then, under another section titled Internal Evaluation, he wrote, "Carl, manager, aggressive, lacks empathy, harms brand image." Gerald closed his notebook, tapped his pen against the table, and decided to take action. He signaled to a young waitress, paid with a $100 bill, slipping her a card with a message, "Managing this way does more harm than your margins. I will return." As he left the diner in the rain, he knew that what he had witnessed was not just an injustice, but an opportunity. Meanwhile, Pamela wandered the city, Maria in her arms, soaked and homeless. The day before, her landlord had threatened her with eviction for overdue rent. At the hospital, a compassionate but powerless nurse refused to admit Maria without insurance. In the dark alley, Pamela held Maria close, their clothes soaked by the relentless rain. The little girl, feverish, murmured, "It's okay, Mom, I just need you." These words broke Pamela, who silently wept, overwhelmed by the weight of her failures. As despair engulfed her, headlights pierced the darkness. A black car stopped at the edge of the alley. Pamela, wary, tightened her embrace around Maria. The window rolled down, revealing Gerald, the man from the diner. "You need a place to warm up," he said calmly, without pity or judgment. Hesitant, Pamela searched his gaze, finding a disarming sincerity. Exhausted, she accepted. Inside the car, warmth enveloped them. Gerald, silent, handed a clean towel to Pamela, who murmured a trembling, "Thank you." They drove for a while before he spoke. "I saw you at the diner." Pamela, ashamed, apologized, but Gerald shook his head. "What I saw was a woman doing everything to protect her child." Surprised, Pamela confided. She had been a business student, with dreams of internships and a scholarship, but an unexpected pregnancy and her partner's abandonment had changed everything. Her parents had disowned her, and she was surviving by juggling odd jobs. Gerald, listening intently, shared a fragment of his past. "I grew up in foster care, invisible. I know what it's like to be forgotten." The next day, Pamela found herself in a modern office at the top of a building, a world she had never imagined entering. Her damp clothes had been replaced by a simple outfit provided by the staff. Maria, rested, was playing in a nearby room, wrapped in a blanket. Holding a cup of tea for comfort, Pamela faced Gerald, whose expression remained neutral yet kind. He placed a file on the table. "I want to offer you a position." Stunned, Pamela stammered, "What?" Gerald explained that he was opening a flagship restaurant in the city in 3 weeks and was looking for an assistant manager. "You have handled pressures that no training can teach. You stayed calm in the face of humiliation. That's leadership." Pamela, incredulous, protested, "I haven't finished university. I've never worked in a fancy place, and yesterday, I was fired in front of everyone." Gerald nodded. "I saw someone who didn't crack, who chose her daughter above all. That's more than half of my candidates can offer." He opened the file, revealing an official job offer: salary, benefits, complete training. "You will start as a manager in training with a mentor. This isn't a test, it's a trust." With tears in her eyes, Pamela brushed the document. "No one has ever believed in me like this," she murmured, her voice breaking. Gerald gently replied, "Well, now someone does." She signed, each letter tracing the beginning of a new chapter. Pamela dove into her new role with feverish energy. In just a few weeks, she went from a laid-off waitress to a key figure in the opening of Whitmore Hospitality Group's flagship restaurant. She learned quickly, memorizing the floor plans, reservation systems, and health codes. She knew every employee by name, their schedules, their birthdays. When a supplier delivered late or an order was wrong, she resolved the issue calmly and efficiently. Her demeanor, never authoritative but always clear, inspired respect. Employees followed her, not because of her title, but because she embodied genuine determination. Gerald, watching from the shadows, noted every detail: how Pamela stayed late to help newcomers, made stained uniforms available for others, or checked her phone at 3:30 p.m. for the daycare message. Without saying a word, he discreetly arranged a full scholarship for Maria in a renowned Montessori program and adjusted his schedule for more flexibility, all camouflaged in HR documents. Focused on her work, Pamela asked for nothing but absorbed every opportunity. One day, after a morning of inventory, she found a takeout meal on her desk: butter noodles and strawberries, Maria's favorites, with a note: "To the mother of a little angel, don't forget to eat." Without a signature, she knew it was Gerald. This gesture, subtle yet profound, reminded her that she was seen, not as a project, but as a person. Pamela, moved, took a photo of the meal, not to share, but to remember that moment when, for the first time in years, she ate without fear or haste, buoyed by a new feeling, the hope for a stable future, built on her own strength. Pamela, moved, took a photo of the meal, not to share, but to remember that moment when, for the first time in years, she ate without fear or haste, buoyed by a new feeling, the hope for a stable future, built on her own strength. Pamela, moved, took a photo of the meal, not to share, but to remember that moment when, for the first time in years, she ate without fear or haste, buoyed by a new feeling, the hope for a stable future, built on her own strength. The Beacon restaurant thrived under Pamela's influence. In just a few months, she transformed the team through her listening skills and rigor. Her human approach, remembering employees' names, calmly resolving conflicts, anticipating needs before they became crises, reduced turnover and increased customer satisfaction. She introduced a mentorship program for hourly employees aspiring to advance, a flexible scheduling system for single parents, and an onboarding procedure that fostered a sense of belonging. Employees, once disengaged, worked with renewed energy, inspired by her example. Pamela, always humble, did not see her role as a title, but as a responsibility. Gerald, withdrawn, observed her progress without intervening, noting each initiative in his notebook under internal growth. He did not publicly congratulate her, but discreetly approved every proposal she submitted, from team rotations to cost reductions, with swift agreement. One day, during a strategic meeting, Pamela presented a planning model that reduced overtime while improving employee morale, a rare feat. The management team, impressed, began to murmur her name as a rising star. Yet, Pamela remained grounded, always checking her phone at 3:30 p.m. for the daycare message from Maria, or keeping 2 snacks in her bag just in case. Gerald, without fanfare, ensured that Maria thrived, her Montessori scholarship extended for another year. On a rainy Tuesday, after a long day, Pamela found another meal on her desk, butter noodles, strawberries, and a note, for the woman who holds everything together. She smiled, touched by Gerald's consistency. That evening, on her way home, she sat with Maria, who was drawing on a napkin. "Are you going to talk about courage, Mom?" the little one asked. Pamela, moved, replied, "Yes, my dear, I believe I will." Pamela's ascent took on a new dimension when she was invited to speak at a national culinary industry conference on the theme, Leadership Without a Title. Nominated anonymously, she accepted, nervous yet determined. The night before, at her kitchen table, she rehearsed her speech while Maria colored. "Are you going to talk about being brave, Mommy?" the little one asked. Pamela, smiling softly, replied, "Yes, sweetheart." The next day, in a packed room of restaurateurs, chefs, and investors, Pamela took the stage, dressed in a simple navy blue dress. "3 years ago, I was fired for bringing my sick daughter to work," she began. A murmur of surprise swept through the audience. Without bitterness, she recounted her journey, single motherhood, financial struggles, and the second chance offered by someone who believed in her. "I'm not here because I did everything right, but because I was given a chance to rise again," she said, her voice clear and confident. She spoke of hard work, the double efforts to be seen, and the dignity found in adversity. As she left the stage, the audience stood, applauding wildly. The video of her speech went viral, shared in trade publications, podcasts, and universities. Headlines described her as the rising star of the restaurant industry and the face of second chances. Pamela, though flattered, remained focused on her work, refusing to let fame define her. At home, she continued reading stories to Maria, checking her homework, and sewing clothes to sell, a hobby that reminded her of her former life. Gerald, for his part, broke his usual media silence at a leadership forum. When asked why he took the risk of hiring Pamela, he replied, "I didn't hire a mother. I hired a leader. What makes me proud is that her daughter will grow up knowing that her mother didn't just survive, she thrived." Pamela, in the audience, silently wept, touched by these words that validated her journey. Their bond, forged in mutual understanding, deepened without ever being named. Pamela's ascent took on a new dimension when she was invited to speak at a national culinary industry conference on the theme, Leadership Without a Title. Nominated anonymously, she accepted, nervous yet determined. A simple email changed Pamela's routine. Gerald invited her, along with Maria, to accompany him on a site visit to Seabrook, a small coastal town. It would be her first trip out of state in 5 years, and the first flight with Maria. The little one, excited, asked, "Are we going to fly like birds?" Pamela, smiling, replied, "Yes, my dear, like birds." In Seabrook, Gerald was exploring a boutique restaurant concept, small and elegant. After the meetings, he suggested an evening walk. Pamela, Maria, and he climbed a dune overlooking the ocean. Maria ran in the sand, laughing like little bells. Pamela and Gerald, walking slowly, sat on the dry grass. Gerald broke the silence. "I used to come here as a child with the foster home. We never swam, but I would collect seashells, pretending to sell them, hoping a couple would notice me." Pamela, moved, picked up a white seashell and handed it to him without a word. Gerald took it, his gaze softening. That evening, in their hotel suite, Maria, focused, was stringing seashells on a cord. Gerald, passing by, stopped. "Is this for your mom?" he asked. Maria shook her head. "No, it's for you. Mom says sharing a real memory means we are important." Gerald, touched, placed the necklace around his neck, wearing it proudly even at dinner, declaring to the curious waiter, "Limited edition, very rare." Pamela, watching from the other end of the table, saw a new lightness in Gerald. Their connection, silent yet deep, needed no words. This trip, far from being just an escape, strengthened their bond, uniting 3 souls marked by invisibility, yet finding comfort in each other's presence. Under Pamela's leadership, the restaurant chain experienced remarkable growth. The initiatives she launched, mentoring, flexibility for parents, human onboarding, halved turnover and boosted customer satisfaction. During a quarterly meeting, Gerald proposed a bold idea to create a new position, Director of People and Development, to institutionalize Pamela's approach. "There is only one person I trust for this role," he declared. The vote was unanimous. Pamela, stunned, accepted with a trembling voice, shaking hands with the board members. This position, more than a promotion, was a recognition of her ability to transform an organization through empathy and efficiency. She developed training programs, feedback systems for employees, and policies that gave everyone a voice. The results spoke for themselves. The restaurants thrived, employees stayed, and customers returned. Pamela, once invisible, was now a central force. Yet, she remained true to her roots, continuing to check daycare messages, sew for Maria, and work early in the morning. Gerald, for his part, subtly evolved. He smiled more, lingered in meetings, and kept every proposal from Pamela in a personal folder titled Internal Growth. He sought no glory, but found meaning in their collaboration. One day, Pamela was invited to sign off on the final draft of a new seasonal menu. As she examined the design, she noticed a watermark, a photo of the 3 of them at Seabrook, Maria between them, holding their hands against the ocean. Gerald, beside her, murmured, "I've spent my life building something important, but thanks to you, I know what truly matters." Pamela, moved, did not respond, but her smile spoke for her. During the grand reopening of the flagship restaurant, under warm string lights and soft jazz music, Pamela took the stage, Maria by her side in a bright pink dress. Facing a crowd of donors, journalists, and industry icons, she took the microphone. "3 years ago, I was fired in front of strangers for protecting my daughter. That night, I thought the world had closed its doors on me." She recounted their journey, from despair to the second chance offered by Gerald, a stranger who no longer remained a stranger. "I found more than a job," she said. "I found dignity, belonging, and the courage to believe that my story did not end with failure." She looked at Maria, then at Gerald, at the back of the room, her eyes shining with pride. The applause, initially timid, became deafening. Gerald, motionless, felt a warmth that no speech could express. Their bond, never named family, was palpable to all. Pamela, Maria, and Gerald now formed a trio united by silent choices: a meal left on a desk, a shell necklace, a photo on a menu. Pamela had not sought to change a business or a man's life, but by refusing to give up, she had transformed everything. Their story, shared in articles and conferences, inspired thousands, proving that second chances arise from resilience and faith in one another. Pamela continued to move forward, her steps now assured, no longer driven by fear, but by the certainty of belonging to a world she had helped make better. Gerald, too, had found a home in their presence, a place to return to. Their victory was not in titles or applause, but in the quietude of a love built day by day, through storms and moments of peace.